Alrighty guys, welcome back to another LEGO set review from BrickByBrick, and today we have the LEGO Star Wars 75161 TIE Striker Microfighter. This set contains 88 pieces and retails for $9.99. And you know, it's a relatively small box. It's actually got a little bit of damage on it right there, which I didn't notice until after I bought it, but you know, it was the only one left, and it was on clearance for $5, so that's the reason I bought it. But, you know, I mean, relatively small box size, but it does, you know, do good justice to the size of this thing. It really portrays the scale quite well. Microfighters as a sub-theme are basically, like, small versions of Star Wars ships, generally. I mean, like, you know, some of them are more or less, you know, proportional, but generally they are very, like, strange proportions, and this one is no different. You'll notice the wings are very small compared to the size of the cockpit, which is really big on this, but you know, that does fit with the cartoonish style. We do get a nice printed dish piece on the front, and I like that. It's appeared in quite a number of sets, including Anakin's Jedi Interceptor. Most of the versions of that ship use this printed tile. You'll notice there are some stud shooters down on the bottom, and if you're holding it right down here, it's very easy to shoot those off. And they're in perfect, or in a perfect place for fingers. However, they do look very out of place, like they don't belong here on a TIE fighter. So that's a little bit unfortunate, but definitely, you know, this is a play set more than a display set. You know, some of them are kind of cute for display, but you know, don't expect like super accurate models. The wings can be adjusted like the large version of the TIE Striker, but I believe, you know, in universe they're always down. Maybe they are up sometimes. I'm not sure if they can actually move in universe, but you know, I mean, it works well enough. The back is just a dish, and you know, other than that, I think my only other complaint would be that the angle of the black and the gray aren't the same. I believe they're the same on the large version, but obviously they just don't have the parts existing in order to, you know, get the same angle out of these two pieces at this small scale. So I can forgive it. It's just a little bit, you know, out of proportion. The figure sits right in here, and I think that the figure looks, you know, respectable when it's in its seat, but he does get a printed console piece, and you know, without the figure in there, it looks relatively similar, but you know, it is a decent representation. It represents a TIE Striker pretty well, like it's recognizable. Obviously there are, you know, some big inaccuracies and disproportionality, but that's more of a stylistic thing than a, you know, just individual flaw with this set. So at first I thought this figure was just your standard TIE Fighter pilot, but turns out this actually only appears in two sets, those being the this Microfighter and the large version of the TIE Striker. The helmet appears in the UCS TIE Fighter set. The legs appear in you know, a good handful of sets, because it's kind of generic Star Wars legs for figures with, you know, black legs that need a little bit of printing. The torso, I believe, is very similar to the one in the UCS TIE Fighter. However, it has, you know, no arm printing, and I think the printing on the front is a little bit different in certain places. But the helmet is actually, you know, different than most, and it's not reused in the TIE Fighter from Solo. They actually went back basically to the older design, from what I can tell, unless that's an error in the official images. It is a brand new, like the one in Solo is a brand new print that looks more similar to the old ones, and has printing down the top that appears to be a little bit more pronounced than on this version. But I like this helmet piece a lot. I think it looks good. The back of the head showing is a little bit unfortunate, but you know, for the most part, it's a really good piece with really good printing. And, you know, I mean, this is a nice updated version of a TIE Fighter pilot, so maybe if you have a slightly older one, like the 2012 TIE Fighter, and you want an updated version of the pilot, you know, you could get this and get a cheap, you know, pilot replacement. He does come with one of the smaller blasters. I would have preferred to see one of the regular ones just because I have a lot of the small blasters and not a ton of the regular medium-sized, but you know, this figure actually was surprisingly uncommon and kind of special, so you know, that kind of surprised me, and I wasn't really expecting that going into this you know, this little Microfighter. So as far as Microfighters go, you know, this isn't anything super outstanding. The model, you know, is kind of bland. I mean, yeah, it looks like a TIE Fighter, but it's a less recognizable version of a TIE Fighter. And, you know, it doesn't look super great on display. I'm sure it would be fun to, you know, play around with, swoosh around, you know, I mean, I think kids will like it. As far as, you know, a display piece, if you collect Microfighters and have like a bunch of them and put them all on display, or if you have all the Microfighter TIE Fighters, then I think that would work well. But just on its own, it's not super interesting. The figure, though, is actually really nice, and I was, you know, surprised by the quality and uniqueness of this figure. I think that it looks really good, and I'm definitely happy with it. Overall, at $10, I think that's a little bit pricey, but if you can get it, you know, if it's listed 20% off, so like $8, I'd say $8 is a good price, and if you can find it at $5, I would definitely recommend it. So, you know, that's unlikely, but, you know, if you see it, I would recommend picking it up, because even the figure alone, I think, is worth the $5 price point. You know, it barely over a CMF, but, you know, I mean, when you factor in the main build, I don't know if it's worth the $10 price. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this review. Let me know what you guys think of Microfighters as a whole, and if I should maybe look into hunting down any more of these on clearance. And if you've seen any others on clearance, let me know. So, hope you guys enjoyed. See you guys all next time. Bye, everyone.